Hey everybody, and welcome back to Lindsey's Little Library. So I'm here today a little late to the game, but I am here with the mid-year book freakout tag. So traditionally this is done more towards the end of June, beginning of July. That's just always such a crazy time for us. We tend to just be jam-packed. So I'm like, instead of just skipping it like I did last year, I'm just gonna give it to you a little later than normal. So here we go. There are 12 questions, 11 questions because I'm skipping one. We'll just jump in. We'll dive right in. Best book of the year so far, absolutely 100% The Women by Kristen Hanna. This takes place during the Vietnam War. We have our main character, Frankie. She comes from a very long line of family members who have served in the armed forces, and she is determined to serve herself. So she is a nurse and she ends up joining the army and is sent to Vietnam. And what I love the most about this book is you get a little bit of her going to Vietnam. You get the whole story of what happens while she's in Vietnam, which is just, Kristen Hanna has a way of writing truths in hard situations just so beautifully. It's so great. And then you get her coming home and the post-war kind of experience. So you get so much of this time period, and it will take you through every emotion possible and yet make you, like, I was so invested in Frankie and so invested in this story, and knowing Kristen Hanna, of course, it's based on true events or true characters. She kind of interviews a number of people and kind of morphs them into one character. It was phenomenal. I loved every single page, every word. I listened to it and it was fantastic. Highly recommend. That's the one book I'm telling like everybody to read this year. Question number 2 is best sequel. So I have actually read a few sequels or companion novels this year, better than I have before. And one of the ones that I enjoyed the most is Thunderhead by Neal Shusterman. This is the second book in the the Arc of a Scythe series. This is a YA fantasy type of a story. Basically, we are years into the future, and as humans, we've been able to conquer all diseases. We can fix any injuries. Basically, we're almost like humans they just can't die. But yet we have to maintain population control. And so that's where the scythes come in. They're basically your doomsday person. Like, those are the ones who determine who dies and how and when. And so we follow 2 young people who are studying to be an apprentice to a very well-respected scythe, and this is kind of the continuation of the story. It was fantastic. So many like moral dilemma questions that makes you think. It was great. I really enjoyed it, and it went like, I read it pretty quick. It was good. Question number 3, what's a new release you have not read yet? Well, Riley Sager just came out with a brand new book. It's on my list. Enough said. I don't even know what it's about. I don't care. It's Riley Sager. I have to read the book. I don't know what's taking me so long. I have it. Let's do it. Question number 4 is most anticipated release, and this is Jodi Picoult's new book. It's coming out, I believe, in September, something like that. It's called By Any Other Name, and this one is really interesting premise. So we have kind of dual timelines. We have one main character from, I believe, 1700s, basically when Shakespeare was around, and then we have a today character who's researching her relative who is the past character. And the main kind of topic of the book is this woman in the past is really the mastermind behind all of Shakespeare's writings, and all she used from Shakespeare was his name. And so this idea that women have to kind of still remain at a different level than men. So I'm always interested in Jodi Picoult. She always makes me think, always. And sometimes she annoys me, but it's an emotion. Like, she just makes me have so many emotions. Sometimes I'm happy and glad and excited, and other times I get mad at what she's showing me, but it's all part of the package. So super interesting. I'm excited about that one. I do have that on my Kindle. Question number 5 is, what is the biggest disappointment you've had this year? and I'm so bummed, and I've already even unhauled the book. It's The Lioness by Chris Bohjalian. I really wanted to like this book because the premise is fantastic. It follows this Hollywood starlet in the 60s as she treats her friends and family to this African safari, and so they end up going on this trip, and there's an issue while they're there, and she ends up getting kidnapped. So great premise, right? Phenomenal, like all in on that one. No. So we got every guest who was there, we got their perspective, not only on the events that happened, so those parts were great and interesting, and I was all in on that part of the book, but then we had a whole bunch of backstory for them, like 3/4 backstory, 1/4 what's actually happening. So pretty disappointed in that, even to the point where I've gotten rid of all other Chris Bohjalian books, because if that's the way we're writing, I'm not here for it. Question number 6, biggest surprise that you've read this year. Could be a couple of books, but I'm gonna go with this one, is a middle grade nonfiction about the Mona Lisa. If you were to told me that was going to be my biggest surprise of the year, I probably would have laughed about it. I don't read a ton of middle grade. I read some. I don't need to read a ton. And then middle grade nonfiction, definitely don't read a ton of. And then the Mona Lisa. But anyways, Mona Lisa Vanishes by Nicholas Day. The way this is written and the way this story is told and the way the book is laid out, it is just, you can't help but be invested in this. And then invested in how interesting that this happened during the time it happened. And this event is what made the Mona Lisa the Mona Lisa. Like, it was mind-blowing. I loved it. It was fantastic. So if this doesn't even, you don't think this would even be interesting to you, I bet you give it a try, because I think you might like it. I really did. I even got a book club to read it. It was great. Let's see, question number 7, best new or new to me author this year. And I have to give props to Rebecca Yarros for this. This also could have been my biggest surprise, but I have loved her writing so much that I've now read 4 of her books this year. And she doesn't have a ton out there. So love her writing style, love the stories she comes up with. They pack a punch. They bring a little romance to it. They bring a little snarkiness and sarcasm to it. They bring some adventure to it. I mean, it's the whole gamut for me. So definitely enjoying Rebecca Yarros. I've read The Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, The Things We Leave Unfinished. There's not a list of books in here. And The Last Letter. So I've read those 4 this year. Fantastic. Cannot believe how much I am enjoying her writing. And just, she's so, I mean, to be such a crazy fantasy about dragons to like, her subjects are kind of all over the place, and I love it. Question number 8 is a book that made you cry. I'm not a big crier within books. The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros definitely had me a little tear-jerky, but this one probably gave me more of those feelings. Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. This follows our main character, Tova, as she is grieving the loss of her husband. She also has lost her son in the past. She begins working at an aquarium as cleaning the aquarium at night, so it's basically just her and the animals. She befriends an octopus named Marcellus, and the main theme of this book is just dealing with grief, and it does it in such a beautiful, amazing, well-written, well-represented way of the multitude of ways you deal with grief. So it was fantastic. So did I shed maybe a tear or two? Sure. I'm not a huge crier when it comes to books, but this one definitely just made me have all those feelings. Question number 10 is a book that made you happy, and this would be Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, because this woman can write some snark and just make me laugh out loud like no tomorrow. This one follows a very interesting premise. You have 2 people who both say that they're cursed. Basically, anybody that they date, when that relationship ends, that person will go and meet the love of their life. And so they both have this like curse, and so they're like, hey, what if we date each other? And then we'll meet the loves of our lives. And so that's the kind of premise behind it. It's so well done. It takes place in Minnesota, which I love as well, because I can kind of picture some of these places that they're talking about. It was fantastic. It's a perfect summer read, honestly. Question number 10. I think that's what I'm on, is Most Beautiful Book. I had a hard time with this one. I don't think I've read a ton of really beautiful books that I haven't already talked about, because I already talked about this one. That's beautiful. So we're gonna go with The Frozen River because it's beautiful in a couple of ways. Beautiful cover definitely brings me in, but the writing in this book is glorious. It's so gorgeous and so beautiful. I have tabs all over the place in here. I was enthralled by this book the entire time. The other thing that's beautiful about this book is the relationship between our main character, Martha, and her husband is such a beautiful love story. So the main premise of the book, though, this takes place in late 1700s. We have Martha, who is a midwife, and she has been helping the residents of this little town for a number of years and has attended a number of births. She's also kind of called in as a fill-in for a physician. So a dead body is found in the river, and she is pulled in to give her opinion on what happened. And her opinion is different from the actual doctor that ends up coming. And there's the whole mystery behind who is this, how did they end up in the river, what happened to them. There's so much more to this story than what I'm even just giving you, but that's the premise. I hope it's enough to bring you into this book. It is so glorious, and I loved every single word. It was so great. Go buy this book right now. That dog. Every time. Oh, that dog. Anyways, question 11. Books you want to read before the end of the year. I have a few. I don't like to give myself a huge TBR because then I get overwhelmed and I ignore them all and I don't read any of them. But I have a small pile. One is The Life We Bury. I want to do a reread of this one. I'm actually planning on doing this with Jen at the end of this month. It's going to happen. We're going to do that. Next one is May Luna. This is by Kelly McNeil. It is a love story set in the 90s that my friend Jen just can't stop talking about, and I need to know what it's all about. And then I have The Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling. I've been intrigued to read. I've only ever read Harry Potter by her, and I'm intrigued. I want to see what other writing style we have. So I have this on my shelf as well. This one intimidates me a little bit just because it's big and thick, and I just don't know. I'm a little afraid, but yet curious enough to get into this one as well. So those are kind of my small pile of what I want to get to before the end of the year. I'm sure it will grow. There's plenty of time left to read more fantastic books. So anyways, if any of these have intrigued you, or you want to chat books or talk about your favorite book of the year so far, leave a comment below. Otherwise, like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.